So I've made a rather large sell-off in my trading to onto invest account, and in this video I'm going to be explaining why I did that and how I plan to use my trading to onto invest account going forward. So as you can see, this is my trading to onto invest account, and you can also see that from the graph there was a massive sell-off at this point where the portfolio value goes down from 22,800 to around 5,575 pounds. So over the past few weeks I've been selling off pretty much everything in my trading to onto invest account in an attempt to simplify my holdings. You can see that pretty much every company in my trading to onto invest account over here is in the red, apart from these two, but they are such a small holding that I didn't bother selling them, but I might do that just to make things look nicer. So yeah, we are in a new tax year and I've set up my business as a limited company and I'm taking out dividends, and so for that reason personally I don't really want to have companies here paying me dividends, and also really investing outside of a stocks and shares ISA doesn't really make much sense when we talk about the tax implications of it. Now this year the capital gains allowance is only £3,000, something that I do think I can hit. I've already sold a lot of my holdings off with capital gains. Now as always, these videos are made on trading to onto, and if you would like to sign up to trading to onto and receive a free fractional share worth up to £100, then all you have to do is to click the link in the description box down below. Alternatively, if you've already signed up to trading to onto in the past 10 days but have not received your free fractional share, then all you have to do is to click the 3 horizontal line menu over here. Scroll all the way down until you see the section use promo code, and in this section just enter my code JUBAIR and you should receive a free fractional share. So anyway, my biggest holding was in the iShares. It still is in the iShares Core S&P 500. So I went all into the S&P 500 in my trading to onto invest account, well, with my spare cash anyway, around on the 3rd of March. And I absolutely cannot, believe or fathom that it's taken less than 2 months to completely recover from the crash that we saw. I made so many videos when the crash was happening, and I'm so glad, that I held these shares. Currently, I am up on these shares by a very small amount, 0.02%. So I sold out around £16,000 of these shares so that I can transfer them into my stocks and shares ISA. This year I decided not to go with trading to onto, not because I have anything against trading to onto. I will still be using them, especially heavily using the trading to onto invest side of things. I just want to have a separate stocks and shares ISA where I can actually hold cash instead of holding cash in my trading to onto stocks and shares ISA. As part of my strategy going forward, I do want to be able to hold cash within an ISA just in case I need it for something like a housing deposit, or if there is another crash, which I kind of hope there is, then I can actually utilize that cash and drip it into the markets. Something that over the term of this crash I wish I had more of, and that is cash, especially tax sheltered within a stocks and shares ISA. I will be maxing out my stocks and shares ISA on another provider, and I'll make a separate video on that just to keep the two providers separate. But yeah, on the 13th of May, I sold out around £16,000 in the S&P 500, and then I had over £1,000 that I sold out. Basically every single share that I had that was in profit I sold out, realized the capital gains, and then just converted it into cash, and then I bundled it with the cash that I got from selling these and put it back into my bank and topped up my other stocks and shares ISA. Now of course, with full transparency on this channel, as always, I did make a small loss when selling these because I was way too impatient and I just wanted cash in my stocks and shares ISA. The loss in total was around £200. If I waited, I would have more than made back that £200. But I didn't. I have to admit it was mostly because I was impatient. I should have waited, but again, there's always a risk with these tariffs and this instability in the market that there could have been, another correction or something like that. So I just wanted my cash out. I don't mind taking the £200 loss on such a big amount. It doesn't really seem that much. Just thought I would let you guys know because, trying to sell off your shares at a particular time is a form of timing the market. Sometimes you get it right, and a lot of the times you don't. It's always good to get those lessons, sprinkled into my videos. However, in hindsight, yeah, the loss does suck a bit, but £200, it's not too much in the grand scheme of things. I'm happy that I have sold out. So around £20,000 will stay in cash in my separate stocks and shares ISA, and I will be putting them into money market funds for now. And we also know that the money market fund rates are dropping very, very fast. Speaking of money market funds, here is the trading 212 interest on cash, currently 4.6%. However, this is dropping very soon before even the end of May. And of course, this is because the central bank rates are reducing and money market funds, they pick up that rate and they essentially will drop too. Obviously, if you are earning interest on cash on your trading 212 invest account or the trading 212 stocks and shares ISA, do bear in mind that these definitely use qualifying money market funds and they are classed as a form of investment, so your capital will be at risk. So as you can see now, my net deposits figure looks very weird. It's negative £2,497. However, going forward, I'm actually only going to be depositing in my trading 212 invest account, as I have pretty much maxed out my stocks and shares ISAs. Now, as part of my long-term strategy in order to max out my stocks and shares ISA every year, I've always used my general accounts. I've always used my trading 212 invest account and other general accounts. In fact, going back from 2022, you can see this fully in action. You can see at one point I had £41,000 and then I transferred it into my ISA and then it dropped to £15,000, and pretty much the same thing happened twice here. This is just very normal. The reason why I would like to invest outside of a stocks and shares ISA is because we do get some allowances, for example, £3,000 in capital gains. I prefer to only invest into the S&P 500 because the dividend yield is very low, and like I said before, we only get a £500 dividend allowance, and because I'm receiving dividends from my company, this is just going to be adding towards my tax bill if I receive dividends from companies other than my company. So as you can see, I do actually have loads of general accounts with many different providers, and I do have investments in general investment accounts outside of my ISA. 6,000 here, a bit more in this general account here, although the £30,000 that I added will be taken out, so around 3,000 in this one, and about 5,000 in my trading 212 invest account. So already I'm on my way to be able to try to max out my ISA for next year. I'm always working 1 year ahead. This year, unfortunately, because of the market crash, I wasn't able to max out my ISA straight away. But now, I've taken the small loss and decided that was worth it in order to max out my stocks and shares ISA. That's like my number one priority as soon as April the 6th opens, is to max out my stocks and shares ISA. So the strategy, like I said, will be just to invest into the S&P 500. Not sure if I'm going to keep investing into the GSPX, which is the hedged version, which has actually proven to be really useful for me over the past few years because, the pound and the dollar, the fluctuations between them. So this is my trading 212 stocks ISA. It's actually pretty crazy just to show you how, we're almost fully recovered. But anyway, that's not the point of the video. So this is my main long-term stocks and shares ISA. Basically, I do not want to be keeping much cash in my stocks and shares ISA, only investments. That's why I want to have a separate stocks and shares ISA with cash just in case something happens. It is part of my strategy for investing to keep a bit of cash in an ISA. But anyway, as you can see, my biggest holding is again the iShares Core S&P 500. I've also started investing £10 a day into the SPDR, which is one of the UK's cheapest S&P 500 funds. Now, because I don't actually plan to deposit any further into my trading 212 stocks and shares ISA, it's going to be hard to actually have cash in there or extra cash. For that reason, if I do want to change the direction of my investments, for example, from the S&P 500 to an all-world, I will have to at some point sell. But with trading 212, it's really good because after you've sold, the cash is available immediately and then I can put it into something else. So it's not really a big loss there. So make sure to check out some of my other videos and I'll see you in the next video.